It is here right at 9:05 a.m. here on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. I do hereby call this ad hoc committee meeting of the Industrial Development Board to order, as it appears we do have a quorum. Moving on to item number 2 of the agenda, public comment period. The Industrial Development Board holds a designated public comment period at each meeting. Members of the public in attendance may provide comments to the board or its committees during such designated time. Members of the public are allotted 2 minutes for public comment. No advance registration is required. All right, moving on to, let me pause. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak? All right, seeing as how there is no one here from the public wishing to speak, we will close the public comment period. Moving on to item number 3, approval of prior ad hoc meeting minutes. These meeting minutes are from our February 12th ad hoc committee meeting. I will give everyone a brief moment or two to take a look at those, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Thank you, Board Member Wright. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Haston. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of the February 12th, 2025, approving the February 12th ad hoc meeting minutes of the IDB, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Motion carried. All right. Moving on to item number 4, speaker presentation. Obviously, this board is not solely focused on housing, but it's certainly part of what we do, and it's part of economic development. We've had some great discussions and a lot of fantastic projects that we did last year with our revenue bonds, and thought it just makes sense at this time to have our guest here, Anton Jackson, with Rebuilding Together Nashville. We talk so much about the new development, but obviously part of the challenges are people being able to stay in their homes. And in doing the research for the cities that I have, one of the things I found is in a couple of the cities that I'm researching, a lot of the homes, like 50 to 60% of the homes, are over 40 years old. So what does that mean? Lots of maintenance. So I thought it made sense to have Rebuilding Together come, and Anton's Director of Mission Advancement. He's also a graduate of the illustrious Hume Fogg as well. So want to thank him, and obviously your group is doing a lot of great work in the community, and also you're very close to housing, and again, it's something we focused on. So no, we've kind of chatted on kind of the bullet points you want to go through, but I will turn it over to you with that. And first of all, just thank you for your time and willingness to speak to us today.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the IDB board, Mr. Brown representing the mayor's office and all in attendance. My name is Anton Jackson. As Chair Hodge said, I am the board.
You used to be on the board, right?
Yeah, there we go. I already started off. I'm the Director of Mission Advancement for Rebuilding Together Nashville. We're a local 501c3, and we specialize in home repairs and home renovations of those over 60, those living with disabilities, as well as veterans. And I actually came about this position. I've been in this role since approximately June of last year, having previously served on the board of directors for Rebuilding Together for approximately 5 years, and the 2 prior to last year as board president. So I've been grateful to be a part of a wonderful organization. We always like to say we're a small but mighty bunch. It's only about 6 of us employed, but I'll tell a little bit about kind of our story and kind of what our output has been. Roughly about 2019, we made a strategic decision. We've been around 30 years. We're actually celebrating our 30th anniversary this Saturday, and so I'll share with the chair and the board. We would love for you all to attend if you're able to, from 10 to 11:30. It'll be at Harkin Hall. Really just kind of a celebration of what we've done over the last 30 years, but more importantly, the homeowners we've been able to intervene on behalf of. But roughly about 2019, we pivoted into what's called a targeted community initiative. We essentially had created a listserv prior to that where anyone that fit those demographics, and again, the key socioeconomic demographic is that of 80% AMI, which everyone I'm sure is aware is area median income and below, but realistically, probably I'd say 60 to 65% of those we serve end up being roughly 50% and lower of AMI and below. But we decided that instead of having just kind of a general listserv of Davidson County, really trying to be more targeted and strategic about aggregation, kind of aggregating kind of not only our deliverables, but by aggregating multiple home repairs in a given area, you're really able to kind of stabilize the community. And so in 2019, through the use of some data analytics, as well as just kind of general windshield surveys, our team went out to various parts of Davidson County, and we decided because of the age of the homes, the age of the homeowners, kind of the aggregation of the communities, the homogeneity of the greater Bordeaux area, that we would select that as kind of our first target community. And it was really interesting at the time because we were evaluating the Dickerson Pike corridor, like I like to say, think Oracle, all the way north to Old Hickory Boulevard. So we're picking up kind of Cleveland Park, Douglas, Highland Heights, kind of on the proverbial east side of Dickerson Pike, all the way into Trinity, Hart, and then we kind of pick up on what would be considered the west side of Dickerson Pike. So Parkwood, Ewing, Heights, New Community. I think Mr. Haston is well aware of Parkwood, Belshire Estates, again, into kind of that, into Old Hickory Boulevard. So we decided to pivot into Bordeaux because of all the things that I kind of listed, while thinking that we wanted to get back into Dickerson Pike. And kind of the irony is we were able to kind of create that secondary community roughly about 2 years ago in the Dickerson Pike corridor. And what we saw is that most of those people had already been displaced. Many of the people that we had come in contact with literally 4 years, 3 years prior were gone. And as everyone knows, affordability is tip of everyone's tongue. Everyone knows the statistics. But because of the demographics that we serve, even if those people sell, they're largely not selling for future valuation, a lot of times not even present valuation. And so they're getting a cash check, but then not really being able to use that to buy back into Nashville, Davidson County. So what we're seeing is because of the demographics that we serve, there's a migration of lower socioeconomic, because there's a disproportionate representation of African Americans and lower socioeconomic classes. So, unfortunately, kind of a migration of African Americans, and then, unfortunately, those numbers are not being replaced. So, all that to say, what we really try to invest in is preservation, using home repairs to really be a focus for preserving affordable housing. As we say, the most affordable house is the one you already own. So the way that we intervene, we work with contractors. So we have roughly about 5 contractors that we have worked with historically and do excellent work. As we say, we don't want to use volunteer labor. We wouldn't want volunteers hanging drywall in our home. And so we use contractors, and we also use kind of our corporate relationships to do volunteer days to kind of do more aesthetic things, painting. I know Chair Hodge has been out.
It was a wonderful experience.
And it really is just, I always, tell people, we have roughly about 2 all-call volunteer days a year. It's just incredible to come out, work with the homeowner, and kind of see the tangible work that you're able to create in real time, and then just to see the faces of not only the homeowner, but of course the volunteers as well, really take a lot of value from the experience. And of course, we're doing great work. We're putting roughly, at last count, about approximately $25,000 into each home that we're doing work on. So we're doing repairs at scale. We're doing roofs, we're doing HVAC, we're doing electrical. If it's something that, if it's house home repair related, we can do it. Again, obviously scarcity in funding is always an issue, and so we have to be mindful of that. Can't put $100,000 in everyone's home, but we certainly wish we could. And so we're always looking for partnerships, and the philanthropic community has just been incredible support of ours, and a lot of our corporate sponsors. Amazon has obviously been incredibly supportive of us. The Housing Equity Fund, and of course locally through Michelle Gaskin Brown and Courtney Ross. So we just really appreciate their support, amongst again a myriad. We have great relationships with the Community Foundation, Frist Foundation, and kind of really thinking strategically about how to build out a more robust kind of strategic network so that we can bring more resources, so we can quite frankly just put it into these homes.
Two questions, if I may.
Go ahead, please.
One, how many houses did you all do last year? And how many do you anticipate doing this year?
Great question. So total, since we moved into the Target Community Initiative, we've done roughly about 105 homes.
Okay.
And we've been using kind of the property assessor data, and so we valued that at roughly about $17 million that we've been able to preserve.
By doing the repairs.
Right.
And this year, how many do you anticipate doing?
So 2 years ago, we did 22 homes, and it was the best year that we've ever had. Last year, we did 39 homes. So we're increasing our capacity. Unfortunately, I think that's a function of the need as well, right? But I also think that we are putting, certainly we're putting more resources into marketing, outreach to get, one thing that we don't do a lot of kind of, general marketing online. It's really just more word of mouth. I mean, it's the best you could have.
Just a clarifying question. I want to make sure I heard you right. You're
Yes, sir.
averaging $25,000 a door. You've repaired 107 homes.
Okay.
So roughly that's $2.7 million in hard cost, but you've gained value upwards of $17 million.
Yes, sir.
That's an incredible return on investment for anybody that's watching. Just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because you're saying that because people are able to stay in their homes.
That's exactly right. Right? And think about all the intangible cost of having to move, right? We're big proponents because of the age group, the age demographics that we serve. A lot of people, the faith communities, healthcare, food insecurity, all those things that we know are kind of social determinants of health that are around housing affordability. If you have to move, then you have to recreate those networks. And so we're really big proponents of being able to intervene before people have to make those tough decisions.
Oh, yeah, so I was saying, so 39, so you're going up, how many do you think you'll do this year?
So we actually had a strategic plan last year that I was fortunate to be a part of. Andre Prince, who's our CEO, and I have been thinking through kind of where we want to scale and kind of where we think kind of our sweet spot is. We project that we'll do 40 homes, maybe even more this year. But what we would like to do is be able to complete 40 homes per year. That's kind of
Every
our
year,
floor.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, yeah. Oh,
One more on
Just keep on.
that.
I love it.
What would be, if you had more funds and more resources, what's the demand like this year? So is it 100 homes? Is it in the pipe? Could you do, if you had the resources, are there easily hundreds of folks that need this kind of help with their homes, would you say?
We really try to not have a large waiting list. So
Okay.
we recently just sent out kind of our last, I'd say 30 homes on our proverbial list.
Okay.
So what we're actually doing now is investing in outreach. And let me kind of go back to our Target Community Initiative just real quick.
Sure.
So we work in kind of the greater Bordeaux area and Dickinson Pike area. We also do disaster recovery in Madison as a result of the tornadoes that happened in 2020.
2020, yeah.
And so we work with VOAD, Long-Term Recovery Group. We're head of construction there. So what we're really going to invest in right now is outreach. So to answer that question, I don't think we really know the depth of demand.
Right.
I think one challenge that we have faced, though, is we can only serve homeowners.
Right.
And that really becomes difficult. Bordeaux was just kind of a natural layup because there are so many homeowners there. Dickinson Pike, particularly as you pivot into Madison, and certainly as we kind of pivot into, or think about pivoting into South Nashville, really being able to identify who those homeowners are so that we can get the resources to them. And unfortunately, really kind of thinking strategically, and again, it's probably not going to be under the umbrella of rebuilding together, but partnerships, whether that be through our relationships with Alliance for Affordable Nashville, to kind of figure out how to help those renters as well with their affordability.
And one thing, I was going through the neighborhood, I know you're probably familiar with the Kings Lane area, Bordeaux. That's kind of, well, it's my family home, and I still have that home, and I grew up in that area. And I noticed one thing is the roofs. When I go through there, that's the number one thing I noticed when I noticed a lot of elderly people, and I don't know the changeable rate in that area now. It was a lot of elderly people before. But roofs and HVAC systems, I would think, are the top two things that people don't repair because of the cost. And that can affect your insurance program, insurance. If your roof is not done, the insurance, you might not be able to insure your house because they look at that as that's a known one cause of claim. So I could see there's probably a lot of demand, the money's thin, but not, a lot of people are not reaching out because they might not know or understand how the program works. I worked with different people before, and we never got into the depth of what we've done a few, but they're scared because they don't understand funding or how that works with Metro and things like that. Do they still own their home and that nature? One question I have is, but I applaud what you guys are doing because it's a hard thing. We tried it before, and rehabbing is almost more expensive than new construction. I'm telling you, it is expensive trying to retrofit. Has the federal funding, well, everything that's going on in the economy, and I heard it was, it was a big, I think it was a $20 billion one out there for rehab. It was, I think it was energy and green. Has that affected any of the funding that you guys receive? I don't know if you was getting direct federal funding at all.
Another excellent question. We have not historically gotten any federal funding. Okay. Interestingly enough, we've never gotten, or we haven't, at least as I've been a part of the organization, any state funding either. So I certainly believe it'll be a trickle-down effect, right? As allocations dry up, different pots of money, but there hasn't really been any type of stress on us, our immediate funding. Again, got to plug, the mayor's office, Mr. Brown, certainly you all are aware the Barnes Fund has just been an incredible boon for us. I would just be frank, absent the Barnes funding, we probably wouldn't exist as an organization.
Most wouldn't. We're right there with you.
And so we're really thankful for housing and what Angie Hubbard and Catherine have really built. Want to continue to ensure that we can kind of assist in supporting those efforts. Certainly we want to make sure that Barnes continues to be funded. So we want to ensure that we tell our story of how, hey, there's certainly development, nonprofit as well, for-profit developers that take advantage of the Barnes Fund, but there are nonprofits as well that absolutely needed to exist. And because we're in the rehab space, I think it's only roughly maybe 2 or 3 of us that do it. Westminster, Home Connection, do excellent work over there. Keith, fantastic, and their organization. They tend to do more projects, but at smaller scale. So, again, we work together, intimately. But as far as just at scale, I think that we're probably we're the top shop in town. And again, what's kind of to Chair Hodges' point about resources, I certainly believe that with additional resources, we could do a third target community. We're big on, we want to stay in the communities in which we serve. So we're not leaving Bordeaux, we're not leaving Dickerson Pike. So we're trying to build a model of sustainability in those. While we're also kind of scaling into others. But again, I think the template works. The template can plug and play. And here's, quite frankly, put another plug in. I think there are other rehab shops that could probably come up and do very like-minded work. One of something that I know when I served on the board, and I know our CEO is constantly thinking about is how to get into South Nashville, where to go into South Nashville. We're all aware of kind of the challenges of South Nashville because of its diversity, its cultural dynamics, and again, quite frankly, the renters. Because realistically, when we do pivot into South Nashville, we're going to have homeowners next to renters, and we're going to be able to work on one home and not the other. And we really need to be able to of course, be prepared for the language barriers and the cultural differences, and kind of think strategically about how we're going to carve up Antioch and other parts of South Nashville.
Or LA as they call it.
And we've had conversations with a handful, I have, with a handful of Metro Council folks, and obviously, you know, would love to have something very similar, but again, it's a matter of scarcity. We selected Bordeaux. I think it was the right decision. I think it was perfectly fit for what our model is, and I think for us to deploy the template and scale it. So I certainly think that we could do it. You know, if we pivoted into Madison, Old Hickory, we could certainly do it there, or you know, anywhere in South Nashville, as long as we just take a more data-driven approach of figuring out who those homeowners are.
No.
So go ahead. I was going to say, how exactly do you find homeowners? Is it word of mouth?
That's again, great question. Caitlin Dastyug, who was the predecessor CEO, who's now COO over Civic Design, was really kind of the architect of a lot of this. She and Andrea Prince, who was our director of program, now CEO, really worked to ensure that we started kind of at the ground level. That is the community. Going to, you know, having community resource fairs. We work with the Vanderbilt University School of Nursing as well. So they've built out some programming for us and really trying to figure out who it is in the community that can assist us with outreach. So we've built out 2 what are called CACs. There are community advisory committees, one in Dickerson Pike, one in Bordeaux. They've been really instrumental in kind of helping get the proverbial word out. We have a lot of survey data that we've been able to glean through our national affiliate, but certainly through Vandy University School of Nursing. But really, Josh, to answer your question kind of more specifically, it is just right now word of mouth. And one thing that Andrea and I are really focused on is putting more resources into the kind of marketing of Rebuilding Together, because I certainly believe that now that we have shown what we can do, we need to be more diligent about getting out to more people. But I will say, because of the demographics we serve, there's a big trust factor, as you all are well aware, that requires a bit more hand-holding. You know, we don't have a lot of people applying online. You know, most of the people who are applying, we send them a paper application, and they send it back to us. Or Walter Thomas on our team, who's our head of our construction, or Stephanie Houghton, who's our director of operations, will just go and pick it up. Like, it's that type of care that we deploy, but again, that's resource intensive. So we're not getting the
We need some money.
some money.
I mean, your issue is, you know, you want to advertise more, because if you put it out there on a huge scale of advertising,
That's right. We're gonna get a lot of phone
more
calls.
demand than what you can actually take care of. And see, you're kind of
Then you're going to be on the news if you don't call them folks back.
I know.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And we don't want to set unfair expectations, because we
Right.
do realize that there's a lot of folks who fit into this demographic who need the resources. Again, that's why the targeted community strategy worked so well, is because we were able to tell people respectfully no. But again, as we grow, there are going to be more yeses. We want to ensure that we have the resources, the capacity, the employees to be able to satisfy it.
And I think that's one thing we all as nonprofits have been focused on is dedicated resources. You know, right now, you know, your organization is the same as ours. You know, without the Barnes Fund and CDBG, DDRF, CBDG, DR, all those programs, home is like kind of scary. It's hard to okay, we got expectations of growth, but how are we going to fulfill that growth if those fundings, like with the CDBG-DR and the DDRF, that's limited. You know, it's only here for a short period of time, and then once it's gone, what's going to replace that?
That's right.
So yeah, so you definitely, your program is awesome, man. I'm telling you, I get so many phone calls about that, and I just redirect them like, yeah, we build houses, but we don't, we don't install HVAC units or do roofs or all that stuff for you guys. So, yeah. That's what needs to be concentrated on, is the dedicated resources for the programs, because this stuff is not going to stop. And there's a lot of elderly communities out there.
That's right.
We get the same thing. You know, we try to set them up on different technical. They just can't do it. You have to come. You have to hold their hand. You have to ensure they do it. And we don't want to lose the homeowners. And that's how we lose the homeowners, because they can't afford the HVAC. They can't afford to fix the roof. Then somebody comes along and says, hey, your house is worth this, but because of this, and you can't do it, we're going to give you this. And they sell out. And then where do they go? They're gone. So yeah, that's Yeah, that's a big priority.
And I'll tell you another initiative that has become near and dear to my heart. When I started in my role, I was really focused on wealth creation, retention. Obviously, we know most wealth in this country was generated through home ownership, generational wealth. Particularly kind of Bordeaux, again, Dickerson, Pike, are under stress of displacement, gentrification, all the pressures that we understand. I think there's a real opportunity to really get in front of more homeowners and kind of, I hate saying educate because that gives it a negative connotation, but certainly kind of provide some information on valuation. So we've worked with Vandy University School of Nursing, Operation Hope through Citizens Bank to actually put on some one-on-one type financial literacy, financial education, and I've made some overtures to some members of the legal community, some local institutions that have legal clinics, and what we really hope to do potentially this summer is cap that financial literacy cohort. It's roughly about 12 to 15 folks currently with one-on-one wills and estates planning, and be able to do it under the umbrella of whether it's a law clinic or whether it's like a legal professional association, thinking Napier Luby, LAW, things of that sort, and actually be able to provide what I kind of think in my mind is a repair plus financial education, which is going to, well, plus estate planning, essentially, creation of a will, which is actually going to equal wealth generation. Right. And what people are then going to be able to do is make informed decisions about, hey, maybe I do want to stay in my home until I pass and disseminate it to my heirs or to my grandkids, but at least they'll have the proper kind of documentation to do so and be able to kind of be more participatory in kind of our larger development growth of our city, where because property values are increasing, wealth is being created. Ensuring that people at least have the opportunity and the information to be able to capture it. Again, we're not going to prevent development. I'm very pro-development. I am not one who's kind of seeking to hearken to the past, but I do think that we have an obligation to inform our Nashvillians who helped build this great city, particularly in our underserved, underrepresented communities, that, hey, there's an opportunity here. Again, it's not going to be a check in the mail, but you are wealthy. I mean, if you live in the greater Bordeaux area, your property has increased substantially in the last 10 years, with the prospects of it increasing even more in the next 10. And so being able to message around that, and again, I'm a big proponent of scale. I think if we can do it with 15, no reason we can't do it with 150 people. We create 150 wheels for lower socioeconomic, moderate to lower socioeconomic residents. That's the wealth creation.
Yeah, that's no one place where a lot of the wealth gets lost. The parents thinking, I'm going to leave this to the kids, but they don't set up, even if it's a trust or how you give it to the kid, and they give them an estate, and then, the taxes or whatever is not paid, or, they just, somehow the bag gets fumbled at that point.
Absolutely.
But not having any proper planning. So that's a key thing that you guys are focused on. I like that a lot. Ensuring that it goes to the next generation and doesn't wind up on the property tax measure to be sold off, or go into disrepair, or the kids just sell the property off and just because they have no intention of keeping it. So that's a good. I love that a lot. I like that a lot.
Board Member Hurst, do you have another question?
Yeah, it's just in line with the other services that you guys are providing. Are you also potentially helping them get on those property tax freezes for seniors and whatnot that Representative Love passed?
Trustee Gilmore has just been an amazing partner of ours. Also, property assessor, Will Hoyt. We have exchanged information, and because our demographics, there's a lot of alignment, I think I want to do more outreach with them, kind of more in conjunction with them. I know that their focus, though, is on the larger greater Davidson County, and so I can't. There's an opportunity, potentially like to be in front of be with the trustee in Antioch potentially, and so really thinking about, okay, if we go down there, what is our message going to be? Because if it's not a target community that we're currently in, we don't necessarily want to tell people about those and then say, well, we can't serve. So we are trying to build more kind of synergy around that, and In particular, some of the additional wraparound services, food insecurity is a big one. You know, sometimes we'll go in for repairs. We'll see that, you know, unfortunately, a resident may not, you know, have food in the home. We've created a relationship with the store, which is over in Belmont. They do exceptional work. You know, Colin Myers, the CEO down there, and so our residents are able to go down there 2 days a week or 2 days a month to get, you know, groceries at no cost through the store. We built a relationship with Mental Health Village. Benaya Sasayas is the CEO there, and really trying to bring some of those resources. So, kind of to answer that kind of as a larger point. We are trying to identify what the needs are. So whether it is a taxation issue, whether it is a food insecurity issue, whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's a healthcare issue, being able to be a hub to connect them to resources. Again, we're not going to be able to solve them under our umbrella, but again, with the vast resources that the city has and so many different people doing so many wonderful things, I think we just need to break down proverbial silos and be a bit more kind of, you know, spoken wheel as opposed to just kind of, you know, insular industries.
I was just going to say, like,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that this is a reassessment year and understanding that 25,000 is producing more of a 6x return, thinking about that impact on taxes and the demographic that you serve. If you're able to help them prevent from that increase in property taxes that they can then use to buy groceries or their own health care or whatever the need may be. It's, I guess, reframing in that savings as, hey, this is other investment in themselves and the community.
And you know what? We really want to kind of hire more of a kind of community engagement, outreach type person. We actually just posted an outreach coordinator position, so if anyone is interested or knows anyone.
Anybody watching?
There you go, it's been advertised.
But that person would really be able to kind of connect those dots because, again, there are so many data sets out there. We have a lot of the same we could benefit from a lot of the same information. Having someone kind of committed to creating those alignments and being able to, you know, largely the community engagement kind of falls to me and our CEO. And, you know, so, you know, again, it's just can't be in multiple places at multiple times, but we are trying to, you know, ensure that we are investing in those strategic relationships.
Have you had any calls for, I know this has been a problem with a lot of our properties, and I know a lot of people ran into it, because the older homes have a lot of clay pipes for the sewer. And when problems come about, they seem to have a hard time dealing with Metro, maybe not understand that you're responsible from the meter box to your house, and Metro's only responsible from the meter box, you know, to the street. And so when an issue comes about, it seems to be a huge problem for a lot of people. And then you got a cost on top of it. You know, if it is a leak on your side, if it's old and there's a tree, limb or something, or roots inside of it, you got to dig all it up and replace it. So in these older neighborhoods, has there been a lot of call for that?
Okay, so I can't really speak to the specifics, but I know of a handful of issues that have popped up. And let me again plug, you know, Metro Water Services have been, you know, wonderfully supportive, and quite frankly, if we're not able to intervene, but at least be able to connect and maybe message on behalf of a lot of our homeowners, a lot of those issues tend to get rectified.
Good.
The issue, obviously, as you point out, is when you're not able to kind of communicate, you know, effectively, and then a lot of folks get lost. And so, Kevin Schmidt, who's over at Metro Water, has become a great friend of ours, and yeah, he's community engagement. And so, I love having, again, kind of that relationship. Again, you can't solve everything. They have regulations. It's not as if, you know, I'm calling in for a favor, but certainly they have programs. You know, Kevin is great at like saying, well, these are the people that we can connect them with. Just send me the information and we'll get them connected. I'm a big proponent. I'm a relationship person. Like, again, sometimes people just need to be guided and connected, right? Like,
that's the biggest issue.
And it's really unfortunate. And again, we're all you know scarce of time. A lot of times, you know, we get a phone call and we're just like, hey, we don't do that. You need to call this number. We try to really get away from that, where we say, hey, we don't do this, but we're going to tell you who to call. This is the point person. These are our friends, and we're going to follow up to ensure that a connection is made. And again, I think if we can do that, if we can do it for 105 people, we can do it for more.
I'll add to that. Usually in your Metro water bill, there's a flyer where there's a third party that offers insurance
Oh, yeah.
from the meter box to the house, and so I know a lot of homeowners take advantage of that. And usually, what I see, this isn't. I don't think this is the standard, but in my neighborhood, I live in a pretty old neighborhood in the Haynes Manor area. What I usually see there is when somebody signs up, they'll come out and basically pull up all the old pipes because they know they're going to go bad anyway, and replace them. And so you're just paying on top of your monthly bill that insurance piece for.
Oh, I didn't know they went that far. Oh, that's good.
I've seen a lot of that. Just like literally my next door neighbor just had her entire pipes pulled out, and I was like, oh, so why'd you do that? Oh, I just got the insurance, and so they came out, pulled it up, cleaned it out, put new pipes from the meter into the house, and so she shouldn't have that issue moving forward, but she does have an addition to her water bill.
Yeah, at least they can, pay it over time. That's expensive. Yeah.
And to your point, it's just a dearth of information. It's the channels.
And it's in that bill that most homeowners get. And it's called the service line protection.
I've seen it many times. I've just never read it in depth. Yeah.
All right, Board Member Hastings, I have a couple questions because I've been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
So we weren't yesterday, huh?
No, I apologize.
No, that's good. Go
Mark
ahead.
and I are members of the Alliance for Nashville,
So we
and
talk
I'll
all
get
the
into
time.
that a little bit later. But
Yeah, so I'll step back and let you guys go.
No, y'all are good. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, one last thing is
please.
that I'm wondering if, again, to prevent that huge tax increase that may happen, if part of your enrollment process, application process, if you can just go ahead and get that going from the
that's actually a great idea. And we may actually, our Director of Operations, I'm really not privy to a lot of that kind of initial screening, but I'll coordinate with her and speak with Andrea, because I certainly think that's a great idea, particularly if you get out in front of it and be able to provide, and be able to do it retroactively too, right? Be able to kind of, we use Salesforce CRM, so we have information on who our past owners, homeowners are, and we should be able to get that information out to them as well. So I'll actually, again, we have our celebration on Saturday, and so I've been kind of working toward that. But certainly next week I'll see if I can reach out to property assessor as well as the trustee, and maybe see if I can get a meeting set up.
So a couple items. So somebody fills out the application. Just talk us through that. They fill out the application. Are you spending $25,000 on every house, or is that an average?
Just an average.
So you all go out and do an assessment of the house, correct?
Sure.
And what are the major repairs that you're typically doing? Because I'm assuming, right, there's probably items you're not doing.
So again, right, everything has to be prioritized. So in our national office, we are an affiliate of a national organization,
Sure.
Rebuilding Together. They're across the country, but again, we're self-governed. So Rebuilding Together Nashville has its own board. We're self-governing, and we don't, we pay affiliate fees, but national office does not govern us. But we share resources, and they created a tool, a pre and post kind of home assessment checklist. It's a 25-pointer. And so our team goes out and they run through those 25 points. Again, it's literally everything that you could, conceivably, and we want the home to be safe and healthy, right? And so that's what these are actually tied into. And each of the 25 line items are tied to one of the 8 pillars, which are our safe and healthy pillars. So that's kind of our umbrella. Again, based on what our allocations are at any given time, but we want to make sure that the home is safe and healthy. So we're going to try to do as much as we can. Let me say that. There have been times where we have scaled. $25,000 is an average. So there have been times we've had to scale more because some projects we simply just could not leave them. Because if we leave them, then they're not. Yeah, I mean, it's quite humbling sometimes to see how our neighbors, again, these are not poor people. These are people, working class folks who have saved, who own pensions, fixed income, who've served Nashville state government, a variety of jobs or a variety of industries, who in their older years, things have kind of fallen, as Mark was pointing out earlier, a roof, HVAC, maintenance. As we all know, we have to maintain our homes, and then things just become so expensive that they just can't rectify it, and then people start to kind of accept that lifestyle, right?
Right.
And so we've seen you know, as you can imagine, bathrooms that are in quite disarray, you know, disheveled, things falling apart. You know, electrical wires obviously is a big deal. You know, I remember that there was a home on in the greater Bordeaux area, kind of in the Bordeaux Hills, where, hey, we had to really include more resources. We were fortunate enough to have, I think, two of our corporate sponsors, you know, come out and do build days out there and really get the home up to standard. Mm-hmm. We ended up putting, you know, more than the $25,000, and you all know how much HVAC and, you know, we were hanging drywall and
Yeah, you can spend.
You put new, I got to put a new panel because of the load.
we did.
I mean, 25 grand. It's a good. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's also not a lot of money when
That's
you're talking
right.
about. I mean,
And what was unfortunate
on a
about
house.
that particular project was there was some damage internally. We thought maybe termites, pests, but as everybody knows, you have an obligation of remediation, right? And so you reach out to the insurance company, they come out and they're like, look, man, this is in violation of the remediation clause, so we're not gonna cover this. So you really are, as the homeowner, left to, if you are incapable of paying for this, you gotta sell that property.
right.
And,
Yeah.
and
That's it.
because that's true.
Yeah.
Because if codes comes out there, property standards comes out there, they're probably not going to allow you to move in.
Yeah.
And so when we face something that challenging, we're fortunate to have a CEO and a board that says, do the work, we'll find the money.
Yeah. Well, let's do. In the interest of time, appreciate you sharing that. Only point I would make, it sounds to me potentially as if some of these homes you could probably do more work. So if you have the funds and the resources, you do the bare essentials you can do with the budget you have, but maybe in a couple years, you need to come back to some of these homes.
Absolutely.
Which takes more money, more resources.
That's why we say that we're not going to leave a community invested.
Which that makes sense, you know, target an area. Well, just in the interest of time, so great discussion. As you can tell, my board members are not shy, so always a wonderful discussion. Talk to us. For the couple minutes we have left, talk to us about what, because you're close to housing in general. It's obviously, like I shared with you, we've done some bond issuance, tax exempt bond issuance, did several projects last year, housing projects. So you're obviously very close to it. So maybe talk to us a little about what your overall landscape. Are you seeing that Nashville, in your book, is improving in how it's tackling this challenge of affordable housing? Maybe high level, what are some things you think need to be done? And then lastly, can you talk to us about the alliance as well?
Absolutely, I would love to. I think those are probably tied into. I'm not a fatalist. I don't think this is insurmountable. You know, the way sometimes we talk about lack of housing in the city is like, you know, it's something that we can't accomplish, and I don't believe that's the case. I just think it requires investment. It requires investment, and it requires us to be mindful of what tools are available and to be able to kind of lean into them. So I actually think the city's doing a good job. It's incremental, right? Like anything else. There is no fix, no quick fix. And so that's why it requires LDG, Mark and his organization, what the Alliance for Affordable Nashville, whether it's affordable housing resources, Eddie Latimer's shop, or whether it's Brent Elrod, what he's doing, Urban Housing Solutions, or quite frankly, what Rico X is doing with, Project Return, obviously Sherry Stinson and Habitat. These are, and again, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Marshall and Angela over at Housing Fund. Again, we are the kind of the practitioners. We are the ones who are actually on the ground. And so what we really have leaned into, and Mark and I certainly attest to this, is we want to be the leaders in the face of affordable housing in this city. We are on the ground. We're myriad in that we're doing a variety of different things. Mark is putting together a capital stack. I'm writing grants to foundations. But realistically, we're all kind of in the same boat. And so I will, the chamber, Shelley Hazel, obviously Stephanie Coleman has been fantastic in supporting. And so we're going to do a second annual symposium over at Belmont for affordable housing. It's May 13th, I think.
Yes, I think it's on a Tuesday, I believe, yeah.
And so we certainly, invitations will be, certainly disseminated to
Would
the mayor and
would
the governor.
you send that to me if you want to,
Absolutely,
or Jamari? Either way, I'll ask Jamari to send that out to the board. Is it open to anyone?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll send that out.
That's
I'll
the
ask
13th.
Jamari to send that
It's
out.
going to be open to everyone, and
You said it's a Tuesday?
Yes,
13th, I think
13th.
Eddie told me about it.
And Bob Fisher is a part of the Alliance for Affordable Nashville. Obviously, Dr. Fisher is just an incredible person, and great to have his leadership. Hal Cato has been incredibly supportive of the Alliance as well, and so I certainly think that there will be some announcements forthcoming soon enough about what we're kind of doing. And
This is on the Alliance. You're saying some
some
announcements.
initiatives.
Okay.
So kind of going back to your first question, I do think that it is not fatalistic. I think it can be addressed. I think what we just have to continue to do is address it. And what we can't do is just say, throw our hands up and say, well, nothing can be done. And this is probably less rebuilding together Nashville and more Anton Jackson. Hey, we got to rezone this place, right? Like, zoning is going to be the next fight. I certainly having grown up here, obviously Nigel and I went to high school together, have seen kind of the transformation of the city. I love this city. I think, hey, it is on the precipice. It's already great, but on the precipice of amazing things. But there are a lot of people being left behind. And we want to ensure that those people, that we're being mindful of those, and we're deploying the resources into those communities to ensure that everybody benefits. And I think there just needs to be more of a focus on that. And as we have these political conversations around zoning, around housing, just being mindful of there are people that, quite frankly, and I'll probably include myself in this, they're just priced out of this city, cannot afford to live here. And if they sell and they move, they're likely not coming back.
No, I'm not coming back.
And so what we're going to end up seeing, again, going back to the migration patterns, is we're seeing older black communities being transformed, but they're not being replaced. And so I think that, in 5-10 years.
Recent article.
That's correct.
There was a recent article out.
Mr. Pemberton may have written something. I know we're all friends of Mr. Wilshire, and so it was great reading that about his father. But it's going to require all of us, and I don't want the city to lose its cultural character and resonance because we're so preoccupied with new. And I think there is space for all of it. I would hate to look up in a few years and we're looking at black population that should Davidson County under 10%, and I think that's probably where we're trending.
Yeah, thank you for all that. I have so much to say, but I'm
It'd be like another hour on that.
you said a lot right there. But it is something that, and I can just speak to it. Obviously, just serving on this board, I've served on this board for a decade, so I've been a part of the growth and think about in high school what our options to eat downtown were.
Church Street Center, man.
And before it closed.
Before it closed.
But I was downtown last year one evening at 5th and Broad with my kids, and I saw some Hume Falk basketball players there, and I was like, dang, this is their pregame meal? They get to come to 5th and Broad? And, so that's all fantastic. That's fantastic. The companies that we've had come here, the jobs creation, when I travel for work internationally, and people can tell I'm not from there, obviously. They're like, you're not from here. I was like, no, I'm not. But they know Nashville. They're like, Nashville is the place, man. That place is awesome. Like, people know it. But, it's something I've thought about, too, is every action has a consequence, has a reaction, right? So that is the challenge, because I've always said, it's great to grow, but we want to preserve to the extent that you can, because it's hard for a city to stay the same with the kind of growth that we've experienced. But to still have the character, because that's what made the city great, and the character's made up of the people. So great discussion there.
And to that point, Chair Hodge, I think that's why density is so important, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have that. If you create density, you can have multiple socioeconomic classes, if you will, living amongst each other in neighborhoods. Again, not to.
Well, let me ask you. Since you're
a few
since
more
you're
minutes.
no, we got to stop there. What do you think are the? So all of us, live different areas. I live in an area that's urban density. Since you're on the ground on this, and you're saying this is the next battle, I'm just curious. What are the hindrance to the zoning and density issue that you see? That you're willing to say on camera, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's a good
This
one
is
right there.
recorded.
I was on the beer board years ago, and I remember okay, and I was a prosecutor as well, and I always remember, oh yeah, we got open records. I always be very mindful. No.
See, that's that attorney speak coming out. There's that attorney speak.
Yep, and clicking in.
But no, I think it's, fundamentally it's education. I think people do not understand will say this. I think there's just certainly a through line of just self-interest. And hey, we're human, we're all self-interested. I get it, but I don't understand how we can continue to say that we are a progressive city and then be anti-zoning reform, because those things seem to be contradictory as it pertains to housing policy. And so I think, again, not to plug the Alliance again, one thing we really want to do is be a leader of just educating. Hey, open book, these are the issues. This is what exclusionary zoning is. This is what restrictive zoning is. This is kind of the historical nature of redlining, right? This is what the Federal Housing Act did. Being able to kind of walk people through, and then, just quite frankly, being able to answer those questions honestly. If we have to disagree, we can disagree, and then put it to a democratic process. What do we want our city to be? If we want our city to be inclusionary, we want it to be progressive, if we want it to be dense, then we're going to have to make some changes. And if we don't want that, if we want it to be incredibly expensive, where it's not as diverse as we would have liked, then we'll make that choice. But we really need to probably get out of this notion of saying we're one thing, and then when it comes time to actually do something about it, acting in contradiction to that.
Yeah. You put that so well. I was hanging on every word.
It's true. But I mean, and you and I even, talked, prior to the meeting, just about the overall challenges of housing supply in this country. I mean, it's not just here. I mean, we're behind. We need more supply. Like that. I mean, it's really that simple.
Economics 101.
And it takes time too. I mean, it's not. I mean, you can't just there's a house. It doesn't work like that. So, or there's a multifamily. I mean,
and that's why we can't just develop our way out of it.
Sure.
We have to preserve and retain too.
Yeah.
Because to your point, we can't build. Obviously, Greg Claxton and what they've put out. They tell the story. We know what the numbers are borne out. We can't build it fast enough to keep up. What we got to do though is we got to preserve the ones that are here.
Stop the leak.
We got to stop the leak.
Yeah, for sure.
We got to plug the hole.
Yeah.
And it's kind of to Mr. Hasson's point earlier, we're shovel ready. So if you make a donation, we're building together. We don't have to put together a capital stack. We don't have to go to Metro codes. We don't have to go through planning. Hey, we can. If you give me $100,000 a day, I can go put it into $100,000 worth of homes tomorrow.
Yeah. Be going in a month.
So
maybe a week.
You said what?
I said be going in a month. Oh, maybe a week.
Yeah. So to that point, to what you just said, wheels are turning a little bit. So this board we've talked in our ad hoc committee, and we'll come back up. We want to make sure everything's tight. But we've just had some discussions about doing like a small business grant with some of the funds that we've raised on our own, just from last year from the projects that we did. So I'm just kind of thinking. So you're with the Alliance. So there's a lot of other companies or organizations in your arena. And I don't know. Maybe we look at it a little differently. But I'm always thinking about this. Is how I'll try to look at everything. It's like, so we got all. This is a big challenge, and everybody's got their lane of what they're working going, right? So how can our board, right? How can we, with the tools that we have currently, the current legislation, how can we make an impact now? Last year we did that because we did tax-exempt bonds for several housing projects. One was a recovery center in West Nashville. We did a couple deals for Dominium. We approved bonds for 900 Cleveland Park, speaking of Dickerson. So we did that. But we generated revenue. So I guess kind of just thinking, as we've had some conversations and looking at potentially doing probably maybe some grants potentially in the range of $500 to $7,500, let's just say, or even up to 10, for example. From what you're doing, that wouldn't cover a house, but for organizations like yourself and organizations that you're a part of in the Alliance, if our board were to do something like that and open it up to organizations like yours, do you think that would be meaningful, something that would be beneficial to other boards in the Alliance as well?
I absolutely would say yes.
Okay.
Because anything that we can do, irrespective of the number, the amount of money, it is money. It is funding.
Sure.
So we're never going to turn funding down.
Never.
But I love the notion of kind of more metro commissions, trying to figure out where there is alignment with the Alliance and other entities like that. And again, I haven't looked at the Metro Code in quite some time, and so I'm not going to pretend to know kind of the parameters of y'all's charter and what your kind of...
We got legal for that. Don't worry.
Exactly. Kind of what your constraints are. But certainly, there seemingly seems to be some sort of... Not, again, it would not be quid pro quo, but certainly some sort of investment as you all are building and creating bonds and working with corporate entities. I know Dominium's been, fantastic. I was fortunate enough to meet with Kyrie Duckett over there, and they're just, exceptional people, supportive of the community. But folks like that, kind of in that space, kind of really thinking strategically about how to, again, use the mechanics of government with our corporate stakeholders to kind of invest in our civic and nonprofit entities. And that's a bunch of words to say, creating a pipeline that everybody in this room has already thought about multiple times, but because of the constraints that we all have to face, it's not as easy. But one thing I do love is like stuff like this. Obviously with Mr. Haston representing LGG and Mark representing the Alliance and his organization, the mayor's office here, just having these type of conversations more often, I think will be really helpful. And one thing I really want to push with the Alliance is to kind of get in front of more funders, whether that's foundations, Hal Cato's been just extremely supportive of us over Community Foundation, and kind of explain to them kind of where we are as far as housing. Because I think a challenge, or a funding challenge, is being able to kind of message without it just kind of getting lost in kind of this greater affordability conversation. Because everybody knows it's an issue, but honestly, Chair Hodge, to your point, if I give you 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, it's going to do anything, right? I mean, maybe my dollars are more impactful going to another issue because it's one that this money could actually help. So really being able to message and, like I say, I don't need $25,000 per se to do one home. If you give me $500, I can put a grab bar in somebody's house. Mm-hmm. If you give me, $5,000, maybe I can, do windows, right? I can do HVAC. we've reached out to TVA and NES, and we have relationships where we're doing energy efficiency. So I want to do that at scale. Like, there are things that we can do irrespective of the number. But certainly, to your larger point, there just needs to be more committed investment long term, whether that's going to be through philanthropic sources, government sources, corporate sources, and quite frankly, it's just going to probably be all of them.
Yeah, mix of all.
It will be, yes.
All right, well, really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to share with us? You said about your organization's breakfast that's coming up.
No, the last thing I would say is, hey, we have our building community breakfast that is this Friday, this Saturday at Harkin Hall in Madison. Harkin Hall is an amazing venue, and I'm super excited. This is actually going to be a celebration of our homeowners, so it's not really a fundraiser per se. Certainly, we are trying to raise money, but this is really, we are inviting back all of our homeowners since we started our targeted community initiative. We're going to have some former board members there. Hopefully, we have some elected officials in the room, and we really want it to be kind of a community experience. So you're going to be sitting down, like if you're sitting at a table, you're going to have 2 homeowners that we served. Maybe you're going to have somebody from Metro Council, and potentially one of our banking colleagues. Really trying to, again, build that community, let people know what we have done. Dr. Leah Rotha Williams from Tennessee State, historian, African-American historian, brilliant individual, is going to be our keynote speaker. And so really excited about that. Mama Blanche, which is a catering, black-owned catering company here in town, is doing the brunch. She did it last year. I have to say that last year was just phenomenal. It was the first year we did it. We did it to Northwest YMCA. Jahari Matthews gave our keynote, and she just absolutely crushed it. So just really appreciate what Jahari and the Titans Foundation, One Foundation, has done for us. And so this year, Jackson National and Harkin Hall are going to be our premier sponsors. So again, go to www.rtnnashville.org to learn more about us, but certainly buy a ticket or two and come out if you're available on Saturday, make a donation, and I will, my email is pretty simple, anton@rtnashville.org. If you have any questions about the organization, please shoot me a note.
And you'll also get the information to us about the alliance, so we can send out to the board members in case anybody wants to.
And that alliance is, again, we are members of the alliance, but I mean, there are more important people than me that are going to be spearheading it, so you will certainly hear about it.
I'm going to tell you that.
Dr. Fisher, of course, Eddie Latimer is our leader. As I said, Sherry Stinson and Angela Belcher, and so we got some true big wigs in the room. Stephen Coleman's just been fantastic, and so Shelley Hazel and them had a meeting. I think it was Friday to kind of get that organized. We're going to have moderators. We're going to have sessions, and again, the mayor obviously will. He probably already knows about it, but if not, he soon will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Any last questions here? All right, thank you all. This has been really great.
Thank
all
you
right.
all.
Moving on to item number 5, affordable housing research. We're over on Tom. So what I would say, first of all, I would thank Board Member Channel for putting this together. You all have this in your packet. Her city was New Orleans. So I would say, take a look at this, review it, and we can certainly bring this back at an upcoming meeting. And then I'll go ahead now. I'll state that I'll do Asheville as well if we have time.
Okay.
That was one that I had 2.
Oh, you did? Oh,
The chair took 2, so.
you're good at it, though.
Can I mention one thing on this? But if you're about to adjourn, I want to.
Yes, just because of Tom. So
Yeah.
and Board Member Channel did this, so I want to let her talk through it more.
Totally. I'm just seeing one thing in here, there's a lot of great stuff in here in terms of programming and organizations that have very similar initiatives to what we're doing as a board, as well as what the city's doing. One thing I want to point out, and maybe I missed it.
Where are you?
I'm on page 6 of her slides.
All right.
they recently, as in the November federal election, had a referendum on their ballot that passed. And that referendum specifically said that 2% of their city's budget goes to affordable housing. So I know that Tennessee has similar laws that would require referendums if we were to do massive bond referendums like that. I think that's in the state's constitution. But again, just wanted to plug that it has been done elsewhere. 2% for New Orleans budget is not that big. It is sizable, but but compared to the size of their population, I'm just doing some quick math here. If our budget as a city is $3.4 billion, 2% of that is $68 million.
That could do something.
That could do something. So thinking about how we talk about that and think about that as a city, leverage our own tools that we could work with. So just want to plug a seat there.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
So we'll get into this more in an upcoming meeting, so we have time. So take a look and review it. And like I said, I'll go ahead and do Asheville. And I have
Austin.
Asheville and Denver.
I just got Austin.
Okay. Or unless, do you want to do Austin next?
Well, if I have it ready, yes.
I'll plan to have Asheville. I'll plan to have Asheville. You know what?
I plan to have Austin.
You know what
I
our
really
guest
do.
said? Some people say one thing and do another. So I'll have.
I wonder who that is.
We'll have Asheville ready to go. And then also, just quick update, have been in correspondence with Angie Hubbard. I know our guest mentioned her. So I did speak with her, or correspond with her rather, about coming back. She spoke to us. It's been probably a year and a half, almost 2 years since last time she was here.
Okay.
But corresponded with her on coming back to us once the strategy, the unified housing strategy, is completed. And there'll also be some Pier City information. It sounds like in that housing strategy. So we'll plan to have Angie come. Whether that's not sure if that will be in the ad hoc or main meeting. So we'll see, just scheduling and timing. But I would say we'll hopefully have someone from her team here within the next several months. And then just be thinking about. I think we got a lot of great stuff. So really engaging conversation today. So I appreciate everyone's time. With there being, before I forget, let me thank our guest, Anton Jackson, Director of Mission Advancement for Rebuilding Together Nashville. I want to thank Metro ECD as well as Metro Legal. And most importantly, thank you to my fellow board members for volunteering your time. And for some of us, I know it's hard to get up early. Point looking over there at my right. But thank you all. With there being no further business, we will adjourn this meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee of the Industrial Development Board here at 10:12 a.m. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.